Hi there, I'm Katie Magnuson, a sales agronomist with Patura Seeds here, and I'm going to chat with you today about herbicide carryover risk as we move into the cropping season for 2022. Having a really good understanding of the risk that's coming from your herbicide applications in 2021, coupled with the drought conditions that the prairies experienced, is going to be really important when you're planning your rotation for this upcoming year. In general, we require 175 millimeters or 7 inches of rain from the start of June till the end of August for soil zones in Manitoba for it to be enough to reduce the risk of herbicide carryover for most crops. So we take a look at a couple of these maps released by Manitoba Agriculture. You can see that the total accumulation of precipitation in July was quite low, still remaining pretty low in August. And then as a total from May to October, the minimum in these kind of yellow areas there are showing 174 as the lowest accumulated precipitation through the growing season, but majority of that did happen from August on, and that is at the very low end of the required minimum. So if we look at percent of normal accumulated precipitation, you can see in June the west half of the province wasn't looking too far off of normal for that month, but in July the majority of the province was really low, in fact, like 60% or lower across the whole province. And then as a total in August, you can see that we reached a bit closer to normal, which re-emphasizes that most of our rain did come in August. So when we're thinking about soil residual herbicides and how they interact with the soil, there's a few processes of breakdown that will occur, which you can see listed there on the slide. A main interaction to consider is when the herbicides bind to the soil particles. So the breakdown of herbicides from the soil is favored by warm, moist soil conditions, and this figure on the slide is a rough illustration of trends that we can typically see in a normal or wet year compared to a drought year. You can see that in a drought year, herbicides can persist in the soil 2 to 3 times as long and therefore extend the time before a susceptible crop can be planted into that field. Your carryover risk is going to increase with low moisture, low organic matter, and low pH. So in a more average year, we're looking out for these symptoms on your eroded knolls in lighter land, but in a year like this, where there is drought across the prairies, we're looking for it everywhere. When we receive a significant rain event following a drought period, you get the release of those herbicides from the soil particles into the soil solution, which allows them to be taken up by your target weeds, but also by the crops and the susceptible crops. So since we didn't receive significant rain until about August, which is the time when your fields don't have a lot of actively growing material anymore, it's likely that we'll see these herbicides still hanging around come spring 2022. On this slide, we have an example from the Patura Seeds farm. This field was a pea field in 2021, and in the fall, we decided to plant some oats, a low rate of oats as a cover crop option. And we started to see Authority Supreme carryover injury symptoms along the headlands where there was a sprayer malfunction. The rest of the field also showed slight injury symptoms, but emerged better and recovered better. To highlight a couple of important herbicide injury symptoms from the group 2s are ones to watch out for: your IMIs, your sulfonylureas, and your flucarbazones. You can see a couple of examples, those listed there. You're going to see on the broadleaves your growing points show up yellow or purple and see some stunting. Field peas are going to be one to watch out for when putting in after Everest. I would generally avoid that one. When we're looking at group 4s, you'll see some abnormal growth, the twisting, kind of cupping on your broadleaves, and then your clopyralids, your launtrels and prestiges are going to be really important to watch out for after to see if you see any injury symptoms. So what can you do? Record keeping is going to be the biggest tool that you have. Keeping track of all the herbicides you use, the date of application, any and all accumulated precipitation specific to your farm, as well as any sort of errors or misses or overlaps that might have occurred. Those are areas where you're going to see these symptoms. At the end of the day, you just got to follow the label, and if you're unsure, consult your local agronomist or your local rep, and they will be able to help you out. So we'll move through that pretty quick, but thank you for tuning in, and I'm wishing you the best of luck in the 2022 cropping season.